Life is not meant to be a constant search for happiness, yet we spend most of our days chasing it, like a cat chasing its own tail, believing that if we just grasp the right job, the right partner, or the right circumstances, then we will finally be at peace. But this is the great illusion, the trick we play on ourselves. Happiness is not something you attain by force. It is something that arises when you stop resisting the flow of life. And to truly live a happy life, you must first accept the truth that most people spend their whole lives running from. These truths are not meant to discourage you, but to liberate you. Because only when you stop clinging to illusions can you begin to experience the deep, abiding joy that has been waiting for you all along. Life is a river, always flowing, always changing, and yet so many of us try to grasp at the water, clinging desperately to what we think should stay the same. We long for permanence in a world that is, by its very nature, impermanent. We want relationships to last forever, bodies to remain youthful, circumstances to stay comfortable. But the harder we hold on, the more life slips through our fingers, like sand in a clenched fist. The secret to happiness is not in trying to stop the flow, but in learning how to flow with it, to embrace the ever-changing nature of existence instead of fighting against it. Everything you experience, your joys, your sorrows, your triumphs, your failures, will pass. The laughter shared with a loved one, the pain of loss, the excitement of a new beginning, the disappointment of an unmet expectation. All of it is temporary. This is not a cause for despair, but a reason for deep appreciation. When you truly understand impermanence, you stop taking things for granted. You realize that every moment is precious, precisely because it will never come again. You start living fully, loving deeply, and letting go gracefully. But this is where most people struggle. We don't want things to change because we believe our happiness depends on keeping the good and avoiding the bad. We try to freeze time, to lock people into who they were yesterday, to hold on to versions of ourselves that no longer exist. We become attached to ideas, identities, and outcomes, fearing that if we lose them, we will lose ourselves. Yet, paradoxically, it is this very attachment that creates suffering. When you resist change, you suffer. When you try to force life into a rigid structure, you create frustration, anxiety, and disappointment. Think about the seasons. A tree does not mourn the falling of its leaves in autumn, nor does it panic when winter arrives. It does not cling desperately to the warmth of summer, nor does it resist the blossoming of spring. It simply allows itself to be as it is, responding to the rhythm of life without resistance. But humans, with our overactive minds, try to dictate the seasons of our own lives. We want endless summer, eternal youth, perpetual love, and uninterrupted success. And when the natural cycle of life brings loss, change, or endings, we suffer because we were never prepared to accept them. To live happily, you must learn to dance with impermanence, not fear it. You must see that nothing is ever truly lost, only transformed. The end of one chapter is the beginning of another. The person you were 5 years ago no longer exists, and that is not a tragedy but a miracle. You are constantly evolving, shedding old skins, and stepping into new versions of yourself. If you can embrace this truth, if you can stop fighting against the inevitable, you will find peace. This does not mean that loss won't hurt or that change will always be easy. It simply means that you stop resisting what is. You let grief move through you without getting stuck in it. You allow joy to be fully experienced without the fear of its departure. You stop clinging to the past or obsessing over the future, and instead you immerse yourself completely in the present, knowing that it is the only thing that truly belongs to you. When you accept impermanence, you also free yourself from fear. Fear is almost always rooted in the unknown, in what might change, in what might be lost. But when you make peace with the fact that everything is transient, fear loses its grip on you. You stop living cautiously, trying to protect yourself from inevitable change, and instead you start living boldly, fully embracing the experience of being alive. So let go. Let life flow as it is meant to. Stop grasping at what is passing and trust that new beauty will always emerge. Happiness is not found in the illusion of permanence, but in the ability to dance with change. The river of life does not ask for your permission to move forward. It simply moves. And the moment you stop fighting against the current, you will find that you are not drowning at all, but floating effortlessly in the vast, infinite ocean of existence. You are not in control, and that is the most liberating truth you will ever accept. From the moment you were born, you were taught to believe that control equals security. That if you can just plan enough, work hard enough, and make the right choices, you can dictate the outcome of your life. But deep down, you know this isn't true. Life is not a machine with buttons you can push to produce predictable results. It is a wild, untamed force, unfolding in ways you could never foresee. And yet most people live in constant resistance to this truth, trying desperately to force life into submission. We plan meticulously, setting goals with the belief that if we map out every step, we can ensure success. We obsess over relationships, believing that if we say the right words or behave the right way, we can make someone love us forever. We stress over the future, trying to account for every possible outcome so that we are never caught off guard, and in doing so, we create a prison for ourselves, mistaking our illusions of control for actual security. But life does not work this way. It never has. Consider the ocean. You can swim with the current, allowing it to carry you where it will, or you can fight against it, exhausting yourself in the process. Either way, the ocean does not care. It does not bend to your will, and neither does life. The more you try to control everything, your relationships, your career, your future, the more anxiety you create, because deep down, you know control is an illusion. You can do everything right and still lose. You can take all the precautions and still be blindsided. You can try to script your life, but life will always rewrite the story. Most suffering comes not from what happens to us, but from our resistance to what happens. A storm arrives, and instead of finding shelter, we scream at the sky, demanding that the rain stop. But the rain does not listen. It falls, indifferent to our protests. The wise person does not waste energy cursing the storm. They find shelter, they wait, they accept. And when the sky clears, they move forward, untouched by frustration because they never fought against what they could not change. When you accept that you are not in control, you free yourself. You stop seeing uncertainty as something to fear and begin to see it as something to embrace. Life is spontaneous, unpredictable, and that is what makes it beautiful. If you could control everything, if you knew exactly what would happen next, existence would become dull, lifeless, a scripted play with no surprises. It is precisely because you do not know what tomorrow holds that life has meaning. It is because things are uncertain that there is excitement, adventure, and discovery. Think about the happiest moments of your life. Did they come from a rigid plan, or did they arise unexpectedly, effortlessly, like a gift from the universe? Love often finds us when we aren't looking for it. Opportunities appear in ways we could never have predicted. Some of the greatest joys in life come not from control, but from surrender. Allowing life to unfold, trusting that whatever comes is meant for us. This is not to say that you should do nothing, that you should drift aimlessly without effort. It simply means that you stop trying to force outcomes. You do your part, you take action, but you release attachment to how things must turn out. You plant the seed, but you do not demand how or when the tree should grow. You love without needing guarantees. You work without obsessing over results. You walk forward, knowing that the path may twist in ways you cannot see. When you let go of control, you gain something far greater, freedom. You stop living in fear, stop grasping for certainty, stop exhausting yourself with the impossible task of making life obey your commands. And in that surrender, you find peace. Because when you no longer need to control everything, you can finally begin to experience life as it is, not as you wish it to be, but as the breathtaking, unpredictable, ever-changing miracle that it always was. Happiness is not a destination, but a byproduct of how you engage with life. The problem is, most people spend their entire existence chasing happiness, as if it were a prize to be won at the end of a long and exhausting race. They believe that if they can just reach a certain goal, acquire a certain possession, or arrange life in a specific way, they will finally arrive at happiness. But happiness is not a place you can reach, nor is it something you can possess. It is not waiting for you in some imagined future. It exists only here, only now, and only as a natural result of how you move through life. The pursuit of happiness is a paradox. The harder you chase it, the more elusive it becomes. Like trying to grab a handful of mist, it slips through your fingers the moment you attempt to hold on to it. This is because happiness is not something external. It does not come from achievements, money, or even relationships. It is a state of being that arises when you stop clinging to expectations and learn to embrace life as it is. But this is where most people go wrong. They have been conditioned to believe that happiness is something that must be earned, that they are incomplete without it, that it is always just out of reach. They tell themselves, "I'll be happy when I get that promotion," or "I'll finally be at peace when I find the right partner." But what happens when they achieve those things? The mind simply moves the goalpost. The promotion comes, but now there's a higher position to chase. The relationship begins, but now there's a fear of losing it. The happiness they thought would come never truly arrives, because it was never in those things to begin with. Real happiness does not depend on circumstances. It is not found in success, nor is it destroyed by failure. It is something much deeper, something that arises when you are fully present, fully engaged with life, without constantly demanding that it be different. Have you ever noticed how a child laughs without reason, simply delighted by the world? That is true happiness. Unburdened by expectations, free from the illusion that something more is needed. When you understand this, you stop postponing your happiness. You stop treating it as something that will come later after you've done enough, achieved enough, or become enough. You realize that happiness is not a reward, but a way of being. It is found in the smallest moments. The warmth of the sun on your face, the feeling of laughter bubbling up in your chest, the quiet stillness of the present moment. It is always available, but you must be willing to see it. Most people suffer not because life is cruel, but because they refuse to accept life as it is. They believe they need more, that something is missing, that happiness is always somewhere else. But nothing is missing. You do not need to become anything more than you already are. The secret to happiness is not in adding more to your life, but in realizing that nothing needs to be added. When you let go of the illusion that happiness is something to be achieved, you find that it has been with you all along. So stop chasing. Stop searching for happiness in the future, in achievements, in others, Stop telling yourself that you will be happy once things are perfect, because perfection is an illusion and the search for it only leads to suffering. Instead, open your eyes to what is here, to the beauty of the present moment. Happiness is not something you arrive at, it is something you allow. And the moment you stop chasing it, you will see that it was never far away, it was always within you, waiting to be noticed. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. This is a truth that many people spend their whole lives trying to avoid, but in their avoidance they only create more suffering for themselves. We have been taught to fear pain, to see it as something that must be eliminated, something unnatural that should not exist. But pain is not the enemy. It is a part of life, a signal, a teacher. It is only when we resist it, when we fight against what is, that pain turns into suffering. Imagine a person caught in a rainstorm. The rain falls on them just as it falls on everything else. But while one person simply walks through it, accepting that they are getting wet, another person yells at the sky, curses their bad luck, and spends the entire time wishing things were different. The rain itself is neutral. It does not care whether you accept it or resist it. But the one who resists suffers, while the one who accepts moves forward with ease. This is how life works. The circumstances themselves are not what cause suffering. It is our reaction to them that creates it. Pain will come. You will experience loss, disappointment, failure. People you love will leave. Moments of joy will pass. And things you once relied on will fall apart. This is not a mistake. This is not something that has gone wrong. It is simply the nature of existence. The seasons change, the tides rise and fall, and everything that is born will one day pass away. But instead of accepting this truth, we resist it. We cling to what we love, trying to freeze it in time, and when it inevitably changes, we suffer. We run from discomfort, trying to avoid anything that might bring pain, and in doing so, we build a life of limitation and fear. But what if, instead of resisting pain, we learn to meet it with openness? What if, instead of seeing it as an enemy, we saw it as a teacher? When you stop running from pain, something remarkable happens. It loses its grip on you. It does not disappear, but it no longer has the power to control your life. You begin to see that pain is simply a wave passing through you, something temporary, something that arises and falls away. When you allow it to be what it is, without resistance, you discover that it does not destroy you. Think about the moments in your life that shaped you the most. Were they the times when everything was easy, or were they the times when you were forced to grow, to change, to see the world differently? Pain, when embraced, has the power to transform you. It humbles you, deepens your understanding, and makes joy even more meaningful. The problem is not pain itself. The problem is that most people only want half of life. They want the pleasure without the struggle, the love without the loss, the success without the failure. But life does not work this way. It is a full spectrum, and to truly live, you must be willing to experience all of it. Suffering arises when you believe that life should be different from what it is. You resist what has already happened. You fight against emotions that are already present, and in doing so, you create unnecessary pain for yourself. But when you surrender to what is, when you let go of the idea that things should be any different than they are, you find peace even in the midst of difficulty. Pain will still come, but it will pass through you like the wind, rather than becoming a storm that you trap inside yourself. So stop resisting. Stop believing that pain is something that should not exist. Let it come, let it teach you, and then let it go. And happiness is not found in a life free from pain, but in a life where pain is no longer feared. The moment you accept this truth, suffering loses its power, and you are free. You are already complete, but the world has spent years convincing you otherwise. From the moment you were born, you were taught that something is missing, that you are not enough as you are. Society tells you that happiness is always somewhere else, in something more, a better job, a perfect relationship, a higher status, a flawless body. You are made to believe that fulfillment is always just out of reach, that you must keep striving, keep achieving, keep proving yourself. But this is the great illusion, the trap that keeps people endlessly chasing without ever arriving. The truth is, there is nothing outside of you that will make you whole, because you have been whole from the very beginning. Look at nature. A tree does not question whether it is enough. It does not compare itself to other trees, wondering if it is growing fast enough, if its branches are strong enough, if its leaves are beautiful enough. It simply is. The ocean does not try to be more ocean. The sky does not worry about being wide enough. The sun does not strive to shine brighter. Everything in nature exists in perfect harmony with itself. Yet humans have been conditioned to believe that they are the exception, that they must constantly improve, constantly seek, constantly become something more. But what if you stopped believing this? What if you let go of the idea that you need to be fixed? What if you stopped measuring your worth by external standards and instead realized that there was never anything wrong with you in the first place? The moment you do, a great burden falls away. You no longer need to chase happiness because you see that it was never missing. You no longer need to prove yourself because there is nothing to prove. You stop looking for something outside of you to complete you because you understand that you were never incomplete. The reason so many people feel empty is not because they are lacking, but because they believe they are. When you believe that you are not enough, you seek endlessly to fill a void that does not exist. You buy things you don't need, pursue goals that don't fulfill you, attach yourself to people who cannot give you what you are looking for. But no matter how much you achieve, no matter how much you accumulate, it is never enough. Because the problem was never that you were lacking, but that you believed you were. Think about the times in your life when you felt truly happy. Were they moments when you finally reached some external goal, or were they the moments when you forgot to question yourself? The times when you were fully present, fully alive, without the nagging voice in your mind telling you that something was missing, that happiness was never about what you had or what you achieved. It was about being at peace with yourself, even for just a moment. When you stop chasing completeness outside of yourself, you become free. You are no longer controlled by fear, no longer driven by the idea that you need to be more. You can enjoy success without being attached to it, love without clinging, grow without feeling that growth is the only way to be worthy. You see that nothing outside of you defines you, and because of that you can experience life fully. Without needing it to give you something you think you lack. The world will continue to tell you that you need more. It will sell you the idea that happiness is something to be earned, that love must be deserved, that worth is conditional. But you do not have to believe it. You do not have to spend your life searching for what has been within you all along. The moment you realize that you are already enough, the search ends. And in that ending, a deeper, truer happiness begins. You see, age is a peculiar thing. We count the years, trace the lines on our faces, and yet some among us seem to defy time itself. Why is that? Is it mere genetics, or is there something deeper at play? The truth is, youthfulness is not merely about the body. It is a state of being, a way of flowing with life rather than resisting it. Those who look younger than their years have, perhaps unknowingly, tapped into a secret rhythm of existence, where time is not a tyrant but a dance partner. So let us explore this mystery together, the 7 hidden reasons why you may appear younger than your age. And in doing so, we may just uncover a greater secret, that age is but a story we tell ourselves. The truth is, youthfulness is not merely about the body. It is a state of being, a way of flowing with life rather than resisting it. Those who look younger than their years have, perhaps unknowingly, tapped into a secret rhythm of existence, where time is not a tyrant, but a dance partner. It begins with how we perceive time itself. Most people live as though time is something chasing them, something to be feared. They resist it, fight it, and in that struggle they age, not just physically, but in spirit. But those who appear youthful do not fight time, they flow with it, understanding that life is not a rigid sequence of years, but a moment-by-moment unfolding. The moment you stop seeing age as a limitation, the weight of it lifts from your face. Lines form not merely because of years, but because of tension, stress, and the habitual contraction of the mind against life's natural rhythm. The ones who look younger are those who have surrendered to the great cosmic play, those who smile at the passing of time rather than fearing it. And then there is the matter of playfulness. You can always tell who has retained their childlike spirit. There is a brightness in their eyes, a certain liveliness in the way they move. Many people mistake maturity for seriousness, believing that to be grown means to be burdened, to carry the world on one's shoulders. But have you noticed that those who play, those who laugh freely, seem to defy the years? There is an alchemy in play, an unseen magic that keeps one light on their feet. The muscles of the face follow the energy of the soul, A playful heart softens the features, whereas the heavy weight of life's worries carves deep lines. The paradox is this: the more you try to appear serious, the older you look. The more you allow yourself to be light, the younger you remain. Then comes the secret of non-resistance. So much of aging is not about the body itself, but about the constant resistance people hold against life. They resist change, they resist emotions, they resist uncertainty. And in doing so, they stiffen, they harden, and they carry an invisible burden that reflects outward. But those who appear younger have, knowingly or unknowingly, learned the art of surrender. They do not clutch at control, do not fear the unknown, and do not cling to what has passed. Instead, they trust the flow, knowing that life moves like a river, and to resist it is to create suffering. When you let go of resistance, the body follows, it softens, it relaxes, and in that state of ease there is youth. Then, of course, there is joy. Have you noticed how people who carry deep contentment with them seem to radiate something beyond their years? There is a glow, a lightness that no cream or medical treatment can replicate. Joy is an elixir, an invisible nourishment that keeps the spirit alive, and it is not the kind of joy that comes from material things, for that kind of happiness is fleeting. No, this joy is different. It is the quiet, abiding sense of wonder in simply being alive. It is found in gratitude, in appreciation of the small things, in a heart that sings not because it must, but because it simply enjoys the tune of existence. Those who cultivate this inner joy do not just look younger, they are younger, for youth is not counted in years, but in the freshness of one's perspective. There is also an unconscious wisdom in those who seem to escape time's grasp. They do not waste energy in worry, in resentment, in regret. Most people spend their lives carrying the past like a heavy sack upon their shoulders, weighed down by things long gone. But those who look younger have, perhaps without even realizing it, let go of this unnecessary weight. They have made peace with what was, and in doing so they remain present. And presence, my friends, is the essence of youth. The mind that dwells in the past becomes old before its time, while the mind that dwells in the past becomes old before its time, while the mind that is here, now, remains fresh and full of life. So you see, looking younger is not merely about diet, exercise, or genetics. It is something far more profound, something woven into the very way we live. It is in how lightly we carry ourselves, how freely we laugh, how willingly we embrace life as it comes. And in the end, perhaps that is the great secret. Youth is not something that fades with time, but something that is lost when we forget how to truly live. There is something quite amusing about the way people try to hold on to youth, as if it were something slipping through their fingers like sand. They chase it in creams, in diets, in carefully calculated routines, but often overlook the very thing that keeps them young in the first place, their state of being. There are those who without any great effort seem to glow with youthfulness, as if untouched by time, and perhaps the secret is not in forcing youth to stay, but in never forcing anything at all. Youthfulness has little to do with appearance and everything to do with energy. You can meet someone in their 20s who seems already weary of life, tired before their time, their face carrying the weight of years they haven't yet lived. And then you meet someone much older, but with a certain vitality, a liveliness in their presence that makes you forget their age entirely. What then is the difference? It is the energy they bring to life, the way they move through the world. Those who look younger often do so because they do not drag themselves through life like a burden to be carried, but rather they engage with it, meet it with curiosity, enthusiasm, and lightness. They do not merely exist, they participate. And in that participation, in that engagement, something within them remains young. There is a hidden truth in the way we treat time. Most people live as though time is an enemy, as though every passing year is something to fear, something to mourn. And yet what is time but a concept, a measurement we impose upon the endless unfolding of now? The moment one stops fighting time, the moment one stops seeing age as something negative, the body responds. Those who fear getting older tend to live in a state of constant anxiety about it, and that anxiety itself is what accelerates the aging process. But those who do not fear age, who embrace each stage of life as it comes, often appear untouched by it. The irony is that the more one worries about youth, the faster it seems to slip away. But when one is at peace with time, when one simply enjoys each moment as it comes, the tension disappears, and so do the signs of stress that so often age the face. And then, of course, there is the simple yet profound magic of movement. Have you ever noticed that those who stay active, not just in body but in spirit, seem to carry an effortless youthfulness? It is not merely exercise that keeps them young, but the very act of movement itself, the way they engage with life physically. They do not move through the world stiffly, reluctantly, as if every step is a chore. They dance, even if they do not know it. They walk as if life itself is something to be explored rather than something to be endured. There is a suppleness to their body, but more importantly, a suppleness to their mind. They are not rigid in their ways, not stuck in habits that make them feel old, and because they do not see themselves as old, their body follows suit. There is also something to be said about the way one interacts with others. People who look younger often have a certain ease in their relationships, a way of connecting without strain, without pretense. They do not carry the heavy weight of resentment, the bitterness that hardens the face and dims the eyes. Instead, they have a kind of lightness in their interactions, an ability to laugh, to forgive, to see the humor in life's absurdities. This lightness is not about being naive, but about understanding that nothing is worth clinging to so tightly that it steals your joy. Those who hold on to grudges, who keep their hearts closed, who build walls around themselves, often find that those walls do not just surround them, they weigh upon them, shaping their very being. But those who remain open, who allow life and people to flow in and out without resistance, have a kind of radiance about them, a presence that feels younger than their years. And then there is the simple but profound practice of joy, not the fleeting kind that comes from external achievements, but the deep, abiding kind that arises from within. You can always tell when someone carries this kind of joy. It reflects in their face, in their posture, in the way they exist in the world. People who look younger do not necessarily have perfect lives. They simply do not let life's imperfections weigh them down. They find beauty in the small things, in the quiet moments, in the simple fact of being alive. And because they do not live in a state of dissatisfaction, constantly chasing something more, their energy remains fresh, unburdened by the tension of endless striving. Perhaps, then, the real secret to looking younger is not about resisting time at all. It is about living so fully, so presently, that time becomes irrelevant. It is about moving with life rather than against it, about meeting each moment with openness rather than fear. When one lives this way, something remarkable happens. Not only does the spirit remain young, but the body, in its own quiet wisdom, follows suit. There is something quite fascinating about the way youthfulness lingers in some people, as if time has forgotten to leave its mark upon them. They do not seem to age in the way others do, as though they have stepped outside the ordinary passage of time. But what if the secret is not in what they do, but in what they do not do? What if looking younger is not about fighting against aging, but about never waging the battle in the first place? So much of what ages a person is not time itself, but the way they carry time within them. Most people live in a state of inner conflict, constantly measuring themselves against their past, worrying about the future, fearing the inevitable changes of life. And yet those who appear younger do not seem to carry this same burden. There is an effortlessness about them, a kind of ease in their way of being. They are not constantly at war with themselves, not grasping to hold on to something that is naturally meant to shift and evolve. Instead, they move with time rather than against it. And in doing so, time does not leave its usual traces upon them. It is also true that many people age prematurely because they have in some way stopped living. They fall into routines, into habits that make them feel safe, but also make them feel stagnant. They stop learning, stop exploring, stop engaging with the world in a way that excites them. But those who remain youthful have not fallen into this trap. They are not afraid to change, to grow, to step into the unknown. They remain curious, open, willing to see the world through fresh eyes. And this, more than any external factor, is what gives them an ageless quality. They have not become stuck in an idea of who they are. They allow themselves to continuously become. Another hidden reason why some people appear younger is the way they handle stress, or rather, the way they refuse to let stress handle them. Stress is one of the fastest ways to age a person, not just physically, but in spirit. You can see it in the way some people carry themselves, in the tension in their faces, in the weight in their movements. They are caught in a constant state of resistance, of worry, of mental exhaustion. But those who look younger have found a different way. They do not allow the mind to be consumed by unnecessary concerns. They have learned to let go, to not take life too seriously, to laugh even in the face of uncertainty. They understand that stress is not something that happens to them, but something they participate in, and they choose whenever possible to step away from it. There is also something to be said about presence, about being fully engaged with the here and now. People who look younger often have a kind of vibrancy to them, a way of being completely in the moment rather than lost in thought. Most people spend their lives elsewhere, in regrets about the past or anxieties about the future. But those who remain youthful do not dwell in these places. They are here, fully present, fully alive. And this presence is something you can see, something that radiates from them. It is in their eyes, in their expressions, in the way they seem to glow with life itself. Then, of course, there is the way they relate to others. Many people age because they carry unresolved emotions, resentment, anger, bitterness. They hold on to old wounds, old grudges, and in doing so they harden. But those who appear younger do not seem to carry these same weights. They forgive easily, not because they are naive, but because they understand that holding on to pain only serves to hurt themselves. They love freely, laugh often, and do not build barriers between themselves and the world. There is a lightness in them, an openness, a willingness to remain connected to life and to others. And in that openness, in that lightness, youthfulness naturally remains. Ultimately, the secret to looking younger is not found in resisting aging, but in embracing life fully. It is in the way one moves, the way one thinks, the way one experiences each moment. It is not something that can be forced, but something that happens when a person stops forcing everything else. When you stop seeing age as a burden, when you stop carrying unnecessary tension, when you allow yourself to live with a sense of wonder and ease, you will find that youthfulness is not something you have lost, but something that has been waiting for you all along. There is a quiet mystery in the way some people seem to defy age. They move through life with an effortless grace, untouched by the heaviness that burdens others. It is not that time does not pass for them, but rather that they do not carry time as a weight upon their shoulders. While many try to chase youth as if it were something that could be captured, those who remain youthful understand something deeper. Youth is not something you hold on to, but something you allow to flow through you. It is not in resisting time, but in embracing the very nature of change itself. One of the great illusions of aging is the belief that it is purely a physical process. People measure age by the lines on their face, the gray in their hair, or the number of years they have been alive. But what if aging is not about the body at all, but about the way one experiences life? Some people grow old long before their time because they have stopped engaging with the world. They have settled into a fixed version of themselves, stopped asking questions, stopped exploring. There is a kind of stagnation that sets in when a person decides that they already know everything they need to know, that their days of curiosity and discovery are behind them. And yet those who remain youthful never fall into this trap. They continue to wonder, to learn, to see the world with fresh eyes. They do not allow themselves to become rigid in their beliefs, and because of that their energy remains fluid, their spirit remains light. There is also something to be said about the way one responds to life's challenges. Most people see difficulty as something that weighs them down, something that leaves marks upon them. They carry their hardships as though they are permanent, as though suffering is something that must be worn like a badge of honor. But those who look younger have learned the art of release. They do not hold on to pain longer than necessary. They do not let bitterness shape them. When difficult moments arise, they experience them fully, but they do not let those moments define them. They have understood that life moves in cycles, that everything passes, and that suffering is only prolonged when one refuses to let go. There is a softness in them, a kind of ease, and it is that softness that keeps them looking youthful. People who age quickly often do so because they live in a state of resistance. They resist change, resist uncertainty, resist anything that threatens their sense of control. But those who appear younger have mastered the art of surrender. They do not cling to the past or worry endlessly about the future. They live in the present, adapting to whatever comes with a kind of flexibility that allows them to remain unburdened. This ability to let life flow rather than trying to force it into a particular shape creates a sense of lightness. And this lightness is reflected not just in their energy, but in their very appearance. Their bodies do not carry the tension of control. Their faces do not bear the stress of constant worry. They are at peace with the movement of life. And that peace is something that radiates from within. Laughter, too, plays a powerful role in keeping one young. There is something about genuine laughter that dissolves years of tension in an instant. Many people grow older because they stop laughing, stop finding joy in the little things. They become weighed down by the seriousness of life, forgetting that humor is one of the great gifts of existence. But those who look younger laugh easily, freely, without hesitation. They do not take themselves too seriously, do not see life as something to be endured, but as something to be enjoyed. Laughter is a kind of freedom, a release from the mind's constant need to analyze and control. And in that freedom there is youth. There is a hidden wisdom in the way youthful people move through the world. They do not waste time trying to appear younger, because they have realized that true youth is not about appearance at all. It is about presence, about being fully engaged with life, about moving with a sense of wonder and openness rather than fear and rigidity. It is about how lightly one carries themselves, how much joy they allow themselves to feel, how easily they embrace the unknown. And perhaps that is the greatest secret of all. Those who look younger are not trying to stay young. They are simply living in such a way that time does not press upon them. They are not resisting the passage of years, but they are also not weighed down by them. In their willingness to let life flow, they have discovered something that so many people miss. Youth is not something you chase, but something that happens naturally when you stop chasing anything at all. There is something deeply paradoxical about youth. It is never where people think it is. They search for it in mirrors, in numbers, in products that promise to hold back time. But youth is not found in resisting age. It is found in embracing life. Some people carry the illusion that growing older must mean growing heavier, not just in body, but in spirit. They gather burdens, regrets, and fears, carrying them like a slow accumulation of dust. But those who remain youthful have a different way of moving through the world. They do not hold on to unnecessary weight, physical, emotional, or mental. They know that to stay young is not to stop time, but to stop letting time define them. There is an unmistakable energy in those who look younger than their years. It is not a product of luck or genetics alone, but of the way they interact with life itself. Many people age faster because they have stopped feeling excited by existence. They move through the world in patterns, repeating the same thoughts, the same conversations, the same routines, until everything feels old, including themselves. But those who stay youthful have never lost their sense of newness. They are still curious, still willing to be surprised. They do not assume they already know what life has to offer. They approach each day as if something unexpected could happen. and often it does. This openness, this sense of wonder, keeps something fresh in them, something untouchable by time. There is also a deep connection between youthfulness and emotion. People who carry resentment, regret, or anger often find that these emotions carve themselves into the body. The face hardens, the posture stiffens, the energy grows heavy. But those who look younger have learned to let go. They do not hold grudges, not because they do not feel pain, but because they understand that clinging to pain is the fastest way to grow old. They do not replay old wounds in their minds, do not allow negative emotions to settle into them like permanent guests. Instead, they allow emotions to move through them, to rise and fall naturally, never staying longer than needed. This emotional flexibility, this willingness to forgive and release, keeps them light, and that lightness is reflected in their very being. There is a way of living that makes people age quickly. It is the way of resistance. Those who resist change, who try to control every outcome, who grip tightly to what is slipping away, often find themselves exhausted by the effort. They age not because of time, but because of tension. But those who look younger have mastered the art of flow. They understand that life is always shifting, that nothing is permanent, and rather than fight this reality, they dance with it. They do not cling to the past, nor do they anxiously chase the future. They are here, in the now, accepting whatever comes with grace. And in that acceptance, something miraculous happens. Time no longer holds them in its grasp. Laughter is another secret ingredient in the alchemy of youth. People who look younger laugh often, easily, without hesitation. They do not analyze whether something is funny or if they should hold back. They allow joy to move freely through them. Many people forget how to laugh as they grow older, seeing humor as something childish or unimportant. But laughter is a release, a reset, a way of shaking off the accumulated tension of existence. It is an act of freedom, and in freedom youth flourishes. Ultimately, those who look younger are not obsessed with looking young. They are not trapped in a battle with time, not trying to turn back the clock or freeze themselves in a particular version of who they once were. Instead, they are fully alive in the present moment, engaged with life in a way that is natural, effortless, and free. They have discovered that youth is not something to be preserved, it is something to be lived. And when you live in this way, the body follows, the face softens, the energy remains light. Youth is not lost with age, it is lost with fear, with resistance, with heaviness. And those who refuse to carry these weights find that they remain ageless, not because they fight against time, but because they have learned to move with it.